Are almost there, and we are live. What's up, everyone? Happy Friday. Hopefully, you guys are all having such a beautiful day. I have a very special guest today who I've had the pleasure to actually meet in person. And this is one individual that has continuously just blown my mind, not with the amount of value that she gives on this platform, but the sheer amount of kindness that she has. And as someone who likes to prioritize good relationships with great people, this is it's my honor to bring on a very special guest. So, who do we have here?
All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. So my name is Daniela Beck. I just graduated from college, which is great. And right now I am kind of doing a whole mix of things. So I am interning full-time at Bosch in Chicago right now in IT project management, which is like kind of my area, what I studied and all of that. And I'm also doing, as you mentioned, a lot of different things on LinkedIn with Wonsulting, being on webinars and different things for them. And also, as you mentioned as well, posting my own content. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
Let's talk about this because I actually don't know this. How did you get into, because last time we talked, you're about to graduate. So just for context for everyone, we met when I had my book launch in New York. You were actually at an internship at BlackRock, I believe, right?
BlackRock, yes.
Excellent. And, we were talking about what's the next steps, and you're like, you know what, I really want to go into project management. And, you got that, but now you felt that was too little on your plate. So now we have consulting in there. How did you get into that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So one of the founder, Jonathan, he and I had a lot of mutual contacts that were part of his ambassador program. And then I guess like he was like previously like a second connection of mine. And then he saw a post that I had about some resume and like skill building services that I was posting on LinkedIn. And then he decided, hey, why don't we team up on this? And like, I can help you like gain more skills and everything. And I'm like, sure. So since then, I've really been helping with resume crafting and interview skills. And then also, I believe about almost 2 weeks ago, I was on a webinar with himself, myself, and some students to talk about how to sort of navigate this online world that we're now living in.
I want to highlight something very interesting because I talk a lot about how content and marketing and talking on LinkedIn especially is so fantastic for small business owners. But I want people to really pay attention to what you just said, right? You were posting about something that you're passionate about. Yes. Someone who was a second degree saw that and was so impressed, moved, caught in the right moment that they reached out to you. And look what happened from that. And what I want people to know is especially what happened right here, this isn't rare. This happens all the time, right? You probably, especially, because when I asked what we want to talk about, you brought up, navigating the world today as a digital platform, or digital world, right? More so than ever. I would love to hear more examples from that because I know you probably have a couple more. Because getting a job just from posting something, teaming up, that's great.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, so I guess getting a job from online. So I was interviewing for full time this past fall, and it was pretty crazy because I got an email out of nowhere from a recruiter at Google to interview for a position. And I'm like, wait, how did she find me? Because I don't know if you know, but I went to a really small liberal arts school with like no tech program. We're a very small one at that. So I started seeing these keywords that she had. It was like leadership, project management, etc. And then I'm like, wait, these match my keywords that I had on LinkedIn. So I knew at that moment that she found my profile on LinkedIn. I talked with her, ended up, actually going for another position than what she originally had planned for me. Did the first interview, made it to the on-site, and it was just like a really good, I didn't get the job, but it was a really good experience. And I think it was all thanks to, having this sort of a platform on LinkedIn. So this is something that I recommend for everyone because as you never know, it could be a second connection. It could just be a random person finds your profile and then you get a whole ton of new opportunities from that. So
what got you posting in the first place? Because this is a this is an interesting part because it's really easy not to. Like a lot of people, there's every single excuse not to do it. What got you actually thinking like, oh, I'm a project management, aspiring project manager. Why post?
Yeah, so I guess for me, it was like I was kind of nervous about posting originally. I'm not going to lie about that. I held it off for like probably between 3 to 6 months of like I was liking. So how I started, I just started seeing other people's content, liking, commenting, etc., kind of getting on their radar and kind of building my community. And through that, I saw other people in my shoes. In this case, it was other students who were in their second, third year of school posting about, oh, they got to like these really cool interviews and they got to go to these cool conferences and events. And I thought, man, like I can, if they can do that, I can do that too. So that really inspired me to start posting. And then the second question for me was like, what am I going to post about? So I saw somebody's post about, for example, what is one, I guess, one thing that you wanted to accomplish by the end of the year. And I think this was 2018. And I said, I really want to, start reading books because at that time, I was in my second year of school, and I was just honestly, I hadn't read books except it was for like class. So at that point, I was like, you know what? So a friend of mine actually saw it, gifted me a book, and then at the same time, I think that's when I met you because I started seeing that you were using LinkedIn video, and I was interested in thinking, oh, okay, how does this video thing work? How do you make good videos? So I ended up
checking our old messages and looks
yeah,
like
so I ended up messaging you, and we
Yep.
hopped on a call and we talked about it. And that's when I really started my first LinkedIn series. It was honestly, it wasn't that much. It was like a 3-minute video once a week. It had the same format. So it's like introduction, 3 things I learned from the book, and then like final thoughts. And it was just super simple. I just recorded myself, didn't use like any editing tools. And people started really to enjoy it. So it kind of not only made obviously my community grow so much, but I also got to meet some pretty interesting authors and interesting people along the way who were like all over the world and just doing incredible things. So it was a really good start. And honestly, that's just what kept me going, is just like something that you're passionate about, start there, and then just consistency. So even if it's just once a week, even once every other week to get started, you're going to realize over time that it gets easier and easier. And it's not that, I mean, it is scary at first, but once you keep doing it, it doesn't become as daunting. So
it's so true. And one thing I will highlight is, and you kind of briefly brushed over it, but I want to kind of hone in on it is, so you were, reading these books, giving your 3 takeaways, and you had a very interesting interaction with someone that was actually an author of the book that you wrote.
yes, actually quite a few. So I ended up starting tagging the authors in my posts, right? And there was one author, she liked my post, commented on it, and I ended up hopping on a call with her because she had messaged me privately afterwards. We talked, and I ended up interviewing her, which is something I did for some of the authors too. So we would get on a call, we would talk for maybe 40 minutes to an hour. Maybe it was like more in depth of their motivations of like why they wrote the book, maybe more about like what they do now and like what they hope that people would get out of what they did. So I did this for a couple of different authors. What was kind of special about this one in particular was that she was actually, so I'm from Pittsburgh originally, and she was actually in the same city as I was for a conference. So we actually met in person, which was pretty cool. So, you're taking the online connections to offline, and I think that's really when like you hit the jackpot.
It's so, and that's so, it's so true. And the reason I'm staying with this is that's how we met. So I posted on LinkedIn, I'm going to New York, and you're like, hey, I'm in New York. And then we had a couple other people like say, yeah, let's get together. Cheyenne. So it was great. So we had a nice little breakfast, and that's the power. And I'm looking at the comments, and Brad's absolutely right. Like the power is that these platforms are tools. And we get to use these tools, and you can use them to, be entertaining, or much like we've done, is actually meet real people and get real results. Like you don't know where that relationship with that author can go, but maybe 10 years from now, you want to write a book and you want to co-author it. Like you have that relationship, and it's just so crazy, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So now I want to change it up a little bit. So there's no question we are living through very interesting times. And it's forced a lot of businesses to adapt really quickly. I want your take on this because you come from very interesting work because you are doing our online internship. A lot of the work you do is online. How are you managing this whole process?
I think for me, it really boils down to communication
Mm,
because, if you're working in an office setting or if you're working face to face with other people, it's very easy to have those impromptu conversations. Maybe you're stuck on something, maybe you're not sure about what if, you need somebody else's feedback or inputs or something like that. And I think when you move to an online workspace similar to what I've done and what I bet a lot of you have done in the past month or so, it can get pretty challenging. So for
mhm,
me, it's really important to establish good communication more than ever with like my line manager and my supervisor, just to make sure that, if I have those issues or problems, I feel empowered to talk with them rather than feel like, oh, I feel kind of nervous because, they're super busy with all this crazy stuff going on. And it's not as easy to get a hold of them as I feel as it was prior to all of this happening. So I think that's one tip that I have. And also to definitely like, this is a tip that I have no matter what, is just like time blocking. So saying, okay, I'm
mm,
going to spend an hour on this, take maybe a break, 15-minute break, and then work for maybe another 1 or 2 hours. Because I think for me, sometimes if you're not in the office or you're not in the physical setting, sometimes you don't have as much, how do I say, like determination to get things done
mhm.
because you're in the environment where you feel the most like conductive. But if you have like a schedule and you just motivate yourself, I think that helps a lot. So that's sort of the two things that I've been doing to sort of manage what's been going on.
Mm. It's interesting too because communication I think is everyone calls it a soft skill, but we know it's frankly it's the thing that drives
It's the most
everything.
important.
No, absolutely. So walk us through how, especially, we're both so I was born in 96. I think you were born in 97, 98.
98, yeah.
98. So you're officially Gen Z. I'm like at that borderline where I'm technically like I classify myself as Gen Z. But we have a lot of people working in different industries, and especially with this whole whole Corona situation, it's forced us to communicate differently. So, what would you give as a tip to a small business owner, entrepreneur, manager, project manager about how to communicate with people, our demographic, especially?
Yeah, so I guess just a tip, I think just I guess one key thing marketing in general is just you want to reach the people where they are. And I
Hmm.
think in my generation, it's really about like instant chats or things like that. Because sometimes even for me, email, it's like good if you want like a more like formal sort of way of reaching out to people and things like that. But sometimes for us, it's like just really fast the way that we process information. So
Hmm.
sometimes if it's just like like a Skype message or something like that, I think sometimes that gets my attention more than just, email sitting in my inbox. But that's just me.
Well, it's great tips, and I totally agree. Like, I don't, frankly, I do the Tim Ferriss method where I check my email like once a day, basically, right?
Yeah.
Because like to me, it's so formal. That's why if someone needs something, just text me or send me an instant chat, especially on Skype or Microsoft, and I'm good. But now I want to kind of really emphasize on what I think personally I'm fascinated with, which is project management, right? You've had a lot of experience with it. You continuously are growing your experience. What's been the most fascinating thing you've learned from it that you think could definitely apply to all of us?
Yeah, I guess the most fascinating thing that I've learned is how much soft skills are important in project management.
Mhm.
Because I think for me, like I come from like a more like technical background and definitely working in IT project management as I am now, I'm starting to realize how important the soft skills are, and they almost override the hard skills in a sense because it's really like your job is decision making, talking with stakeholders, communication, as we mentioned before. So I'm really starting to notice, oh wow, like this really is more of a soft skills dominated area than what I originally had thought.
Hmm.
So that's kind of what's like surprised me about the whole field in general.
It's fascinating because anytime you're managing a system, right? So Peter, it's fine. You don't really have to. You can just do your thing. But when you're dealing with other people, there's ego, there's insecurity, there's fear, there's all these feelings. You as project manager have to navigate it. So, what's been one of those books, resources that you've benefited the most from, especially like to learn that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess one resource in general is PMI, so the Project Management Institute, and I that's kind of how I found out about project management. Is I took a class when I was in my undergrad, and then I ended up being selected for this competition that was hosted by PMI Pittsburgh. So PMI, they have different chapters in pretty much every city. So that's how I met a lot of project managers at a lot of the big companies in my area. And then eventually I got to actually volunteer with them for almost a year. And I helped lead a couple of different initiatives with them, which honestly, as like somebody who was 19, 20 at the time, was pretty crazy. But, if I hadn't made those connections through that organization, maybe that wouldn't have happened and I might not be doing what I'm doing now. So
Oh, interesting.
they're just a really awesome resource as a group to really start learning about project management and the certifications that you can get too. So
one question I had, and I didn't know when I was going to put this in, but I think now's the better time than ever. So I love the online offline conversation. Meet online, get offline, right? But you bring up something interesting, which is you still can go to networking events and you can still meet these people. But do you think you still build relationships with meeting someone in person and then building that relationship online?
yeah, I would say it goes the opposite way too. So in other words, I've met people at in-person events, ended up really connecting with them online, and then finding, oh wow, they're actually in the same group that I'm in, or like we had similar interests, and then from there we could continue to communicate and build that relationship, and possibly even create something together. So I've definitely experienced it both ways, as far as meeting online, connecting in person, and then connecting in person, and then expanding that relationship online.
Hmm.
So.
Which one do you prefer?
Oh man, I don't know, because at this point, if I was starting out, like if this was 2018 me, I would have said meeting in person, just because I didn't know the power that online had. But now that I'm at this position where my platform has really grown, and I'm getting a lot of new people just finding me online. I think, online communication for me has become even easier, just because now, like, I have a bigger platform and people's second and third connections are connecting with me. And, even people I don't know are connecting with me with different resources and opportunities. So I guess in that sense, online is easier. But what I find more personal benefit from would be like still like face-to-face communication,
Mhm.
because I think it's easier to build more rapport with people versus like just, talking online.
It's interesting though too because I totally agree. I think what made the biggest shift for me was uh, I met you in December of 2018. I was kind of scrolling through our messages, right? Which is crazy to think about because we met in December. We talked on and off, and then July we actually met in person, and we've continued, messaging every couple weeks. I know you sent me a couple things. I've sent you a couple things, and it's so interesting because I think at scale where we are today, because I agree, I love you can't beat meeting people in person. Like I'm being honest, right? You can't,
Yeah.
especially now. Like I'm craving it. I'm going crazy here, but I think it's interesting because we're not going back, right? Like these platforms are here, and even if they go away, there's going to be something that overtakes it. Where online communication is going to be essential. So how have you navigated that? Because from what I've seen you do really, really well, so you've engaged with a lot of people, right? They comment on your stuff, you comment back, you actually go out of your way to jump on calls. I've seen you do webinars. So what's the steps to building those real meaningful relationships?
I think it all starts with just like you said, engaging with other people. So I
Mhm.
know a lot of people when they go on LinkedIn or these other platforms, they just like a post, they just put some like, "Oh, congratulations" comment, and that's pretty much it. But that's not how you really build
The thumbs
relationships.
up. I hate that one. Oh,
You know what I mean? So I think my biggest tip is, even if you or at this point where you're like, oh, I'm not sure to start posting or not, or you're still kind of like testing the waters, like just leave an interesting comment, because really that's how a lot of my relationships on LinkedIn started. So if you're like, somebody's, I don't know, talking about a book like I did, and then you're like, oh, well, I have this interesting resource, this XYZ, and I think you can benefit a lot from it, right? If you're adding value to someone, they're going to want to engage with you, and they're going to want to build a relationship with you, right? If you have something to bring to the table, or you have a new insight or a new thought that maybe that other person hasn't thought of before. Because I've had people, message me on LinkedIn and be like, hey, Daniela, have you ever thought about doing this or that or that? And that's actually spawned a lot of the ideas and a lot of the content that I post now. So yeah, definitely, if you can just bring something new to the table that maybe that person hasn't thought of before, like honestly, you're like so much ahead of everyone else. And then also too, when you connect with people online, like leave a personalized message, because sometimes it's a random person, and like if we don't have a ton of connections, like
great post.
You are, and it's just a little more tricky to like gauge, like if I'm gonna find value in having you as a connection and vice versa. But if you're like, actually, it was interesting because last night I was listening to a webinar, and the webinar host connected with me on LinkedIn. He's like, hi, thank you so much for attending. Let me know if you have any questions. Like that for me is like so much nicer, and it makes me feel so much better rather than just like, hello, have a good day, or something like that. So if you could be more specific about how you met this person and why you want them to be in your network, I feel like that too, like sets you apart from everyone else.
Oh, absolutely. And I always think about it like when someone's asking like for specific help, right? I always say, think about talking to that person in person, right? Like if I were, if you said, oh, I love this book, it was amazing, this is why it was great, and I said, good, like you're not able to do anything, or thumbs up, it's like, this is awkward now, right? Instantly, within a second.
You want to do that in real life, you know what I mean? If you walked up to you and said, oh, great job, but it's like not very fulfilling, right? So if you really want, everybody watching, if you really want to develop good relationships online and offline, like definitely, try to have substance, and like I said before, bring something to the table and bring some value. I think that's really important.
That's awesome. So we're getting to the tail end of the conversation. What's something that you're most excited about right now?
I'm sorry, more excited about,
Because everyone's worrying about so many things, but I know everyone that
I think there's something really exciting coming up for me personally. So for those of you who don't know, there's this organization called Avita, and they host the Grace Hopper Conference every year, which is the biggest conference for women in technology in the world. I've been fortunate to go the last 2 years, and it's been like one of the best experiences that I've done. And they have a series. It's called like Tech Talks, and I'm going to be doing a tech talk for them on May 1st, which is very exciting for their organization. Which is, it's something I really look up to them as like a body, and it's going to be really fun to actually do something for them. So I'm really looking forward to it, and there I'll be sharing a lot of my tips for like how to like make the most out of networking and how to combat imposter syndrome and things like that. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm really looking forward to it.
That's awesome. Make sure to film it, because I know everyone here is probably quite interested in your take on this one.
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. So this, we're coming to, like I said, the tail end. I've dropped your LinkedIn and whatnot. What is one more place, or actually, I don't want to ask that. What's one more thing that you want more people to know? It could be about project management, online, offline. Floor is yours.
I guess one more thing I want people to know is like, just get started. I think, a lot of times you're fearful, we're scared, we're afraid of like, oh, I'm putting myself out there, and how about if, nobody likes it, and how about if, you start to like have all these thoughts come in your head. But I think just like start commenting, just share a post about an event that you attended, or share, maybe some insights you've learned from a book or whatever you're passionate about. I think if, get the ball rolling and you just get started, I think, you're going to realize like that it's, and then it's a life-changing thing. So that's kind of what I want people to take away from the conversation.
And again, like throughout this whole, and if you guys are just tuning in, we're about to end in a couple minutes, and then you can go rewatch it. But she's met some great people by just posting, right? You've had doors open, you've had jobs offers, you've even, you've had interviews and all these things purely because you got out of this, I remember the first time I posted, I was, that's my bubble. It was safe in there. And once you got out, all these things started happening and you don't know where things are going to go,
Yeah, like to be honest with you all, like I've kind of been affected by the whole crisis because I had an opportunity that I was really excited about for this summer. And, yesterday I got a call and I lost that opportunity. But, I think it's important because if you kind of get outside of your bubble, you're going to see, okay, if one thing's gone, I still have all of these other things that I can still do. And I still have all of these opportunities. So I would say, yeah, definitely, like just step outside of your comfort zone. Because I think if you start and you're going to realize that the world is like so much bigger than what you originally thought it was. So yeah.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on. Make sure you're connecting with Danielle. Like the truth is, there's so many people on this platform, especially that are really putting out great pieces of content, but also are real people, as you can tell. You can actually and that's the biggest thing I'm telling people, and you've said it well too here, is you can actually make real life changes based on things you do here. So thank you so much for being on. Besides LinkedIn, where can people find you?
Yeah, sure. So people can find me, I'm in different affinity groups especially for young women in technology. As I said, I'm going to be doing a presentation for Anita B on May 1st, and I'll be dropping that link pretty soon once that gets finalized. And I'm also part of, like I said, of Wonsulting. So we do different webinars and things during the year. So I'm not sure when I'm going to be on there next. I'm doing another piece, but I'm looking forward to it. So that's
people have to connect so that they can watch you. So thank you so much for being on. I'm gonna cut it here, and then we will talk for a couple more minutes. I have a couple more questions for you, but thank you for being on.
All right, thank you.